Over the last 75 years, over 10,000 chemicals have been introduced to our food supply. Yet the EU only allows 300 food additives. But at Thrive Market, we bring our members the highest quality brands and restrict more than 1,000 ingredients found at conventional grocery stores, making the switches easy with our Healthy Swaps scanner, which finds better versions of all your favorite pantry, snacking, and home essentials without the added junk, dyes, and fillers. Plus, it's all delivered straight to your door. So if you're looking to shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health, go to thrivemarket.com/podcast and you'll get 30% off your first order and a free gift.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. So, if you are not familiar with this web series, where have you been? I've been doing this for a while now, but just in case you are new to the game, sorry, I hear my phone. This is the web series where we like to talk that real talk. We like to talk about the things that we don't really think about every day, that's maybe in the back of our minds, that we have questions that we want answered, but we never know who to ask or what to say, or we don't really get into the heart of the matter. This is the type of show where we do that, and this is the web series. So, as we are a step ahead tutoring services, we tend to focus on certain topics. We tend to focus on business, employment, education, physical health, mental health. Um, we tend to stay within our purview, right? So, sorry, your computer did not freeze. I was trying to get a thought out. But basically, this is the show where we like to educate you and we like to take single topics, whatever they may be, and teach you those topics in a fun way, in an explorative way, in an educational way. So, with that said, let's get right to it. So, the topic of this episode is, what am I doing wrong as an entrepreneur? So, this is the episode for the small business owners, entrepreneurs. Maybe you're thinking about it, maybe you want to be one. This episode is for you. Now, if you notice, it says part 2, which means there is a part 1. So, wherever you are watching this right now, whether on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, maybe Instagram, check out our video library and search those archives. So the first part of this topic is there. And we like to repeat topics here because there is more than one way to look at a situation. So we like to look at multiple perspectives from all angles, talk to different people. So if you see the same topic over and over and over again, do not be alarmed. This is an educational tool. We want you to look at one thing from multiple points of view. So with that said, I have a guest with me who is going to be on the hot seat, and his name is Dalton Jensen, and I look forward to talking to him today. So let's get right to it. Who is Dalton Jensen? Let me tell you who he is. So Dalton Jensen is a sales leader, author, and founder of Aloha Views. Aloha Views is a consulting firm that specializes in business acquisition. Dalton is an MBA candidate with over 10 years of experience in sales, finance, and accounting. He is the author of Sales Genius and the Thinking Project podcast host. His mission, should he choose to accept it, is to help individuals break into the world of entrepreneurship. By learning sales and starting a business, anyone can earn more freedom in their lives. He currently resides in Utah with his family. You can learn more about his projects on daltonkjensen.com gmail.com, which we will discuss later. And that's it. That's it for the bio. All right. So I'm going to bring Dalton to the stage right now. Hi, Dalton. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Gabrielle? It's really awesome to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. And it's all sorry, I think that came out pretty rude, but it's awesome to have you with me
Yeah.
as well. And thank you for tackling this topic about what are we doing wrong as entrepreneurs, and you're here to give us some techniques to about how to sell our products. And I definitely I may want to take some notes. So I'm looking forward to having you discuss this. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton over to you, and I'm just going to let you get right to it.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. So thanks for joining me. Like you mentioned earlier, I was it's been a long time coming for me as a business owner. And it's been just a really awesome opportunity to learn and grow and to be a part of this, to be a part of the podcast. So, but to just dive right in, right? That what I like to talk about the most um, is labeled the art of connection. So the art of connection really begins with how we function as business owners, really, and um, we start with connecting with our clients, connecting with the people that we really enjoy working with, right? So when we were starting a business, it's really all about who we are targeting, our you know our target market and things like that. But once we have that all nailed down, it's really just about what we want to accomplish and and really scaling our business. So it starts with connection. Where I start is there's a difference between marketing and sales, but it's the difference is mainly in like a Venn diagram, right? So there are explicit differences, but they really do meet in the middle. So that's kind of what I talk about. That's what I do. I really help business owners focus on what they do when they meet their clients, when they meet their dream clients, how to connect with them, and how to get them to move forward in the process for whatever we're selling. Right? If it's a product, if it's a service, we ultimately have to get right down to it and persuade and influence people to be a part of a part of our dream, a part of our goals, right? Because that's what's happening when we sell things. It's not simply about the exchange between us, right? So, um, excuse me, if I'm selling something, it'll be my services in exchange for money or something like that, right? And while that's the goal, right, is to exchange this and have economic gain on both ends. It's really about connecting with our customers. It's really about building a lifelong relationship and doing that and building a relationship even after we get a deal or we get a sale or whatever. So that's the main part of what I teach. So um, kind of expounding on going from there. Uh, where does it all start? So it all starts with getting clients, right? And it's a little out of my scope to talk about marketing in the sense that marketing, um, is there to like help you establish your offer, help you establish your target market, help you establish your pricing and things like that. So I'm going to assume that you've already gotten most of that done. And talking about like what do we get wrong most of the time, we get all of that right. We set up a really awesome landing page. We nail down our demographic. We nail down our offer. Usually our offers really well. Sometimes though, in my experience, I've seen where like offers kind of lack. But we can talk about that more a little bit later. And so once we get past the offer, we have all of that nailed down. It's beautiful. Our branding is beautiful. We spent tens of thousands of dollars to do this, and then we put it up online. We start promoting it, and nothing happens, right? And so a lot of business owners get really discouraged when that happens. But one thing that we miss a lot and have to realize is that we're all salespeople, that we all have something to sell, that we have places to go and things to, places to go and people to talk to, because the old adage, I'm from Iowa, so the old adage, if you build it, they will come, right, is kind of out of the whole realm of possibility when you're talking about business, because the number one thing that we're fighting as business owners is obscurity, right? We're fighting people seeing us. And so we really have to take that into consideration and attack that head on. So how do we step out of obscurity? You can definitely market, right? So paid advertising, funnels on your website, and all of those things are good, to capture people when they look for you. But what really converts and helps you step out of obscurity as a business owner is finding the people that you want to talk to, and then actually reaching out to them and talking to them and getting in front of people, and then knowing what to say when you step in front of people and when you know what to do, right?
Over the last 75 years, over 10,000 chemicals have been introduced to our food supply. Yet the EU only allows 300 food additives. But at Thrive Market, we bring our members the highest quality brands and restrict more than 1,000 ingredients found at conventional grocery stores, making the switches easy with our Healthy Swaps scanner, which finds better versions of all your favorite pantry, snacking, and home essentials without the added junk, dyes, and fillers. Plus, it's all delivered straight to your door. So if you're looking to shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health, go to thrivemarket.com/podcast and you'll get 30% off your first order and a free gift.
Excuse me. And when you know who you're talking to, so actually getting in front of them. So people will find you, and to me, that's gravy. To me, that is only what should be happening anyway as a result of your outbound kind of consulting. So it really depends on what you're selling. Business to consumer is kind of hard to like do a lot of outbound to, but you can do it. So if your customers are on LinkedIn, if you can use LinkedIn automation, LinkedIn DMs, right? You can get the premium subscription on LinkedIn and start talking to people that you want to sell to, that you want to buy your product. If your main target is on Instagram or TikTok or some of these other social media platforms, your outreach might look a little different. There is Instagram, TikTok DMs, but then just putting out really good content, that's part of selling. Answering people's questions, building up a library of overcoming objections. So whether you have a product or a service, people are there's something that's holding people back from buying. And your library of content on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, things like that, your number one goal should be to address those concerns. So whatever those may be, whatever those look like, address those concerns up front. I wrote about this on Twitter the other day, but if your website doesn't have like a frequently asked questions portion, you're missing a huge opportunity to answer people's questions, because in my experience, common objections really boil down to the same things that you can control, right? So, your frequently asked questions on your website might start with like, what is the refund policy, and then, but then it answer, common objections in your niche. So mine, for example, is sales consulting. So my frequently asked questions are, why would you need a sales coach? Why do you need a sales mentor? Why is learning sales important? Why is learning sales important if I'm just a business owner and I'm maybe not a 1099 or a W-2 sales consultant? Because it's really important. So starting there is a really good opportunity. And then we get into the art of connecting with your clients. And the art of connecting with your clients is empathy. And, I was talking about this earlier on another podcast where I had the opportunity to really break down what that means to people. So I start with a video that I saw a long time ago on YouTube. And if you haven't seen it, I'll just briefly describe it, but you should go watch it. And that is the video called "It's Not About the Nail." And it's a really quick, 90-second video about a woman who's sitting on the couch and she's talking to her husband, and she's got a nail in her forehead, and she keeps saying things like, "My head hurts. I don't feel good, I'm bumping into things and all these things. And he keeps telling her like, well, you have a nail in your head. And she keeps telling back to him, like, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. Because active listening isn't about solving problems. It's about meeting people where they are. It's about meeting people where they are. And so what that looks like is just understanding and empathizing with other people's feelings. I had an opportunity to do that and to really learn what that meant when I volunteered at the crisis text line. And we had people sending in texts all the time, and they ranged from very mild cases to very severe cases. In some cases, people saying they wanted to end their lives. And so we were trained on how to take people from those hot places to cold places without, whilst remaining calm, while helping the other party remain calm. And so it taught me a lot about business and sales, because while we may not be in those severe of situations and have that much on the line, it is important to recognize that the same principles we use in these cases we can use as business owners. So empathy, mirroring, labeling, dynamic questioning. So how and what questions. And then just understanding that we are all human, and we meet people where they are. So that's really where it starts at the beginning of the sales process. So prospecting would be finding people who you want to talk to and then reaching out to them, through direct messaging, through emailing, through calling. That's all really important things we have to do to make sure that we can step out of obscurity. Because like I said, as business owners and as new business owners, that's probably where we miss the boat the most. We think that people are just going to walk right into us and just recognize that our offer is amazing. And while we should position our offer that way to be a no-brainer, to be able to not walk away from, some people need what I call, the velvet hammer, which is just that gentle push into making a decision. Because we're all playing this game. We're trying to see if we can trust each other. We're trying to see if it's worth it and things like that. And so sometimes all of us just need a little push. I know I've needed that push because we're just nervous, right? You're stepping into uncertainty. We're giving money away and we're not sure if we're going to get it back. At the end of the day, we can be 99% sure, but that 1% will keep customers, our clients, from doing business. So we have to be gentle, use that velvet hammer and push them through the deal. So that next, how do we do that? How do we build authentic relationships and build authentic urgency with people, and not really know what's going on? We ask a lot of questions. So I was just talking about this with a friend of mine, and it was a really tender opportunity that made everything click in my head, which was, if we don't know the other person's goals, we can't really progress the deal forward. And as we get new information, when we're discovering, when we're talking with clients, that should change how we approach things. So that's why, like, you see a bunch of generic sales processes around, right? Because sales is very nuanced. So there's really 5 main steps. There's prospecting, which is finding who you're going to talk to. Qualifying, so making sure that they actually qualify to buy what you're selling. A demo or some kind of presentation where we showcase our offer and show them how it works. The negotiation phase, which can be long or can be short depending on what we're selling. And then the wrap up and follow up. So I call it wrap up and follow up. So we either wrap the deal up and get it all buttoned up and start ultimately providing value for our clients. Because remember, like, we want to provide value to our clients, but our clients will never get the full value of what we offer unless they buy. Like, we have an obligation, if we believe in our product, to help other people buy it, because that's ultimately what we're doing. And so then if we don't wrap up the deal, then we follow up. Excuse me, sorry. Then we follow up. And if we're following up, that's the road less traveled. That's where we get most 90% of the deals that we end up taking, because a lot of people don't do it at first. Maybe they need time to think about it. Maybe they need all these things. And of course, like there's ways to overcome, I need to think about it or things like that. But ultimately, if we want to build a genuine connection, it happens a lot on our client's timeline. So a lot of this now comes down to how we manage our pipeline. And so I'm mainly talking about like service-based businesses, although product-based businesses will be just the same. So if you're selling like apparel or things like that, you're the first time a customer sees your product, they might not buy. So instead of having everything riding on those one or two clients hoping they'll buy, we need to make sure, even as a product business, but especially as a service business, how we can keep people coming to us and coming into us. So that's probably the biggest thing, because they're not going to buy the first time. So we need to make sure we have good nurturing campaigns, good follow-up, and then good prospecting efforts and good lead generation efforts. So all of that kind of comes into play. So we've talked a little bit about prospecting, where that comes into play. Then we move into qualifying. So what does that really look like? And that is asking like dynamic questions. And this would be specifically for a service business. So if you're listening out there and you have a service, so mine would be like, I sell a course and I sell sales coaching. And then I also help people work through business offers and things like that. So I offer a service. So I want to know a few things if I'm going to take somebody on as a client, specifically for my like coaching business, right? And that would be the first thing is why they're looking for it, right? We need to establish what somebody's goals are, because it's really hard to move somebody through the sales process if we don't know their goals and we don't know what's motivating them and we don't know what makes them tick. Because we can find out a lot in that first question, which sounds like, what motivated you to take the meeting? I'm curious what made you think that my solution would be a good solution for you. How'd you hear about us? All these kinds of questions will give us a really good idea of who we're dealing with and if they're going to be able to work with us, right? Because that's the thing. That's the other thing is like, this qualifying step is a step because not everybody is going to be a good fit for our product, and that's okay. And I think as soon as you realize that that is true, that some people aren't going to work for your product, that's when you start to really scale your business. So I start with why, and I start with establishing their goals. The second question I will ask or I'll establish is their budget. So for example, my sales coaching, if I'm in with somebody, I would say the best way to establish budget is just to tell them what your pricing is. I always give a range, but we're in 2022 where we can't really play games with people anymore about pricing. So I always say, my coaching ranges from $500 to $3,500. If you like what you hear throughout this conversation, does that work within your budget? Does that fall within your budget? And they either tell me yes or no. And then obviously we go into how do we handle yes or no. But right now, it's not super important that we handle that. It's more important that we get an answer. So if they say no, I would say something like, okay, that's totally reasonable. Let me ask you. And then I would move on to the next question, which might be why they're looking to buy. I'll go back and try to figure out what is motivating them. So we've got goals, we've got the budget. We're going to ask for some kind of decision makers. So who else would be involved in this decision? Because sometimes, I've had instances where people want to take my course or the program, but they're not the ones writing the check, even though it's for them. So there's decision makers involved. There's people who need to be involved with this that go there, right? The next one would be timeline. So how soon are they looking to make a purchase? How soon do they want to get this done? That's really important to know up front. And then who are we comparing to, right? So I want to know, like, have you looked other places for this service? What have you found? What have you liked? What have you not liked? I'm getting all of these questions to kind of build that relationship, to show them that I care, and also to get the idea that I've got that all figured out, right? So then that's pretty much it. So I guess that's 5, right? Establish the goals, establish the budget, establish the decision makers, identify the timeline, and identify competition. So There's more to those, and there's more nuance to those. You can find those in my book that we'll talk about later. But that's kind of the essence. And then we move through the demo and things like that. But the ultimate part that we miss as business owners is we think it's about us. And to finish off this whole kind of topic, and I know I'm kind of running, kind of early if you're listening to this, Gabrielle, but the whole point of this, the art of connecting with your clients, is it's not about you. And that's why I I focus on empathetic selling. So that's kind of my offer to the world is I teach people how to connect with their clients through empathetic selling, because empathy is meeting somebody where they're at and understanding their feelings. And once we understand their feelings and understand their goals, and they feel comfortable with us, that's where we can shine the most. In fact, Amy Cuddy wrote a book called Presence. She gave one of the most listened to TED Talks in the world. And she is, I can't really remember what she does right off the top of my head, but she basically established that people judge us off of two things: warmth and competency. So do you care and do you know? And they judge, do you care more than do you know? So people will put up with a little bit, they'll put up with a little more of not knowing and not being so much of an expert if they know that you care about them and they know that you're going to work for them and go to bat for them. So at the end of the day, what we need to correct in our mind as business owners is we really need to make it all about the customer. We need to adopt that Amazon principle that it is all about the customer, because once we establish that, we will be able to win. We will be able to move forward with pretty much anybody that we want to, assuming that they're a good fit for our product, and then we can go from there. So that is the art of connecting with your clients. I know I wrapped up a little early, but you guys can learn more and talk about that as we move through the show. But thank you so much.
That was amazing. You definitely gave a mouthful there. So my thing is, when you say it's all about the customer, I guess, what if the customer wants something that you don't offer? Do you, and this is my challenge as an entrepreneur as well, do you bend to what the customer wants, or do you stand firm and say, no, I don't offer that? So for example, I work within a certain price range. So, I get this a lot. Like, if the customer feels it's too high, they may say, oh, can you go lower than that? That's too high. That's too expensive. Do I say, like, you know what, I'll lower it just for you? Or is it more like, no, this is it, and if it doesn't work for you, my competition is down the block?
Yeah, that's a great question. So essentially what you're asking is, how do you handle like price objections? So, and in that case, and I think the question before that was a really awesome one to ask, and that is like, where do boundaries come into play? And that's why I tell people to lead with empathy, because empathy allows us to set good boundaries. Like, it allows us to set those boundaries that we really don't cross. So whenever I talk about negotiation, I really leave it up to the business owner, because I'll never tell you what to sell your product for. But to answer the question of how do you deal with like price objections, I deal with price objections very uniquely. Which is like, first of all, they don't have to ask me the price, because I'll just tell them the price. And I think that's probably the most important piece to get this kicked off. And so let's say I say, Gabrielle, if you're saying your tutoring prices are between X and Y, and if you like what you hear throughout this call, does that fit within your budget? And your client says, no, it needs to be lower, blah, blah, blah. I would say something like, what I found is my customers see my price is very reasonable. So I'm curious what's missing for you. I'm curious, what else would you need to see to justify this price in your head, right? Because sometimes it is about price. Like, I'm not one of those salespeople who say it's never about price, like your customer can always pay, because the chances are that's inaccurate. Like, sometimes people can't pay. So to answer your question, I just kind of put it back on them, and I try to get more information out of it. But I start with saying, like, that's interesting. I hear you. I understand. Money is really important. During my research, my customers feel that this is a pretty fair price range. So I'm curious what's missing for you. And that opens the door up and allows us to have more of a conversation to figure out what they would need to see. Because maybe this happens early in the conversation and they haven't heard our whole pitch, and they say I need X, Y, and Z, and we actually offer that. So once we have that conversation and once we open that door, then we can find out what they really value.
So you're saying to figure out why something doesn't work for them and get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I try to stay away from why questions, though, because in our culture and most cultures, why is like a pretty aggressive way to get more information, and that can kind of lead to some confrontation that we don't want to confront right now. So, but yes, essentially, I want to open up the dialogue more and figure out what's missing in this whole process for sure.
So you don't like why questions. So what would you
Yeah.
ask instead?
So I would ask what and how questions. So if somebody said, the price is too high, I can't afford that, I would obviously lead with empathy. I would lead with that I call it a pace, which is like an emotional deposit. So I would say something like, "Hey, I totally understand. Money's important for everybody." And then I would say, my other customers feel like this is very fair, and we've tried really hard to be aggressive with our pricing. And then I would say, what am I missing? So I'm curious, Gabrielle, what's missing in your mind? What else are you looking for? And I would open up the door there. And there's a few ways they could go. And that's kind of, just, where are we going with that? Or I would do that, or I would say something like, I totally understand. I know that money's really important. Let me ask you really fast. And then I would go into like another maybe probing question of, hey, I'm curious, you mentioned that some of your tutoring goals were X, Y, and Z. And I know money's important. And then I would ask maybe something like, so what other alternatives are you looking at? I might jump right into the competition, because some people get into their competition and the competition might be more expensive than me, or they might be missing something, right? Because one of my favorite quotes in sales is, where there is no difference, there can be no preference. Right. So I really try to focus on how I can establish that I'm different and that I'm more unique.
So in order to establish my unique characteristics and what makes me different, I would have to identify what makes me unique and what makes me different.
Yeah. What makes you unique? What makes you different? But also, and it's not so much what makes us different, because think about when you go to the store and we look at water, right? Like, I'm sure if I bought the most expensive Voss water and the cheapest generic water, and I put them in a cup in front of you, we probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So, what does that mean for us? That means that we don't need to necessarily be different from our competition, but we need to figure out the differences in our customers' head. So what problem are they trying to solve? What gap are they trying to fill? What are they trying to accomplish, right? So the difference can be sometimes simply, what are their goals? Like, because their goals might not align with someone else. They might align with me. And then if I can figure out what their goals are and how to justify this, then I can really figure it out.
So now my question to you is is the goal to be, when you're interacting with the customer, is the goal to be better than the competition, or to prove that the competition is worse than you?
Right. Yeah,
Wait, I think I asked that wrong. Yeah, are you to the customer, are you trying to prove to the customer that you are better than the competition and therefore they should choose you? Or are you trying to say that the competition, you'll be worse with the comp. Wait, I think I'm getting it
I
backwards.
know. I
You understand what I'm
Yeah,
like?
yeah. I
Yeah,
understand what you're
sorry.
saying. I understand what you're saying. So yeah, I can definitely tackle that. We're not. So if I'm ever in a conversation and somebody brings up competition to me, first of all, I ask that question up front because I want to know. Second of all, I never bash competition, and I don't recommend anybody does that. When I early way back in the day when I sold cars, um, and I sold Honda, and somebody was comparing to a Toyota, I would just say, wow, it sounds like you got a really hard choice ahead of you. Two great cars. You never want to make somebody feel like they're making a bad decision. You always want to make them feel like they're on the right track. And again, it's not about better or worse, it's about different, right? Because different doesn't necessarily mean better or worse. Um, and then the key factor here is I could be selling the exact same product as somebody else, and the biggest difference is me. That's what I'm selling. People buy us. People buy from people that they like and people that they trust. Um, and it's not about the lowest price. It's not about the highest price. It's not about the best quality or the worst quality. Amazon is a prime example of this, pun intended, right? Of of fair pricing and excellent customer service. Amazon isn't the cheapest. They're not the most expensive. They're not the best quality. They're not the worst quality. They're just fair. Like it's very, you know what I mean? It's very fair. And so that's why we like Amazon. Not because they're like one way or another. It's just because we like Amazon. And so when you're talking with a client, getting their goals, figuring out what they like, understanding who they are, and then really leaning into what makes them tick and what their goals are, and doing it in an authentic you way, because people buy you, people celebrate you. I mean, that's where most of our clients come from, is I liked you, right? Like I've been in little startups and I've outsold giants, and I mean I've beat giants, and the reason that I beat them is because they say we liked you more. So it's about you. It's about you.
So basically, when it comes to you're showing the customer why you're worth it.
Yeah.
Um, basically. So even
Mhm.
if, let's say the competition, let's say you charge more than the competition, you want to say like, this is what I may charge more, but this is what I bring to the table as compared to the competition.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely want to be you want to bring your value proposition to the table for sure. Because yeah, there's sometimes where you are going to be more expensive, and you might not be more expensive than the competition. You might just be expensive, right? Like people might not understand. So like you offer tutoring services. So if I were in your shoes, one of the questions I would ask, and that I would ask everybody is like, have you ever had a tutor before, and how much did you spend on a tutor, right? And then I might ask them their expectations. So, let's say they say no to everything, they're brand new. I would say, what are you expecting to pay for a tutor? Like, how much have you allocated for your budget to acquire a tutor? Because then we can educate customers, because that's another thing that's really important, is the teaching process, because we do need to educate our clients on why they should pick us, and maybe just tutoring in general. Like when I sold digital marketing, like some people didn't know what SEO was. And so we really had to educate people on SEO. And I loved that opportunity, because that meant that I got to tell them a story about how that could help them. And they first heard it from me, and I made it uniquely mine, and I catered it to their needs, and it was funny, and we laughed, and we ended up getting the deal, because they thought at first SEO was too expensive, but then I educated them on the process of it. And then it sounded like the cheapest thing in the world, right? So we really just have to make it about them and educate our clients, and keep figuring out, like keep finding out what they need and what they're trying to fix, because if the problem is big enough, they'll work to solve it, right? And if you dig deep enough, you can find a problem that they have that's worth paying for, or at least educate them to see like that they need to pay for it, right?
So then is it always about the customer? Because then my thing is if it may get to a point where it may, and it may not even be about price. It may just be about what they want from you.
Mhm.
I mean, and we were talking earlier about boundaries, so I would think there may be a point where, the business owner has to say, I can't help you.
Oh yeah.
So where is it is can we really say that it's all about the customer?
Yeah, that's a great point. So when I talk about empathy, I do believe that part of empathy is setting good boundaries, and part of setting boundaries is, I illustrate this with a story found in Buddhism, and that is the story of getting shot with an arrow. And essentially, what happens is, getting shot with an arrow hurts, like is physically painful, but the suffering comes from the story we tell ourselves about why we got shot with an arrow. And this story is perfect because it allows us to set up boundaries and have people respect those boundaries. So yeah, if a client doesn't work out, set good. It it is very empathetic to set good boundaries and say, hey, like we're not a good fit, right? Like if I'm miles away from, like if my tutoring is $200 an hour and they can only afford 20, we are light years away. And I will, let them down easy, and we'll end the conversation, but I'm not going to waste my time. I am going to make it all about them because I'm going to give them the opportunity and give them a lot of time and a lot of energy back to go find somebody who will work with them, right? Oh, which is fine. Like if they can't afford us, if they can't meet the certain requirements that we have set in order for a client to work with us, like there's nothing wrong with letting them down easy. And I would argue that is, and not argue is the right word, but I would contest that is very empathetic to let a client know early and transparently that we are not going to work well together. um so that, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
And just so I think it's also important to be true to yourself. So yeah, you
yeah,
want to get on the client's level for whatever it is. But you also have to be true to yourself and say and be honest with the client and say like I'm not if you really feel you can't help them or you don't want to, just I'm not able to help you. What I do is say I'm not able to help you. Here's a referral. Um,
right.
so just to get on their level, but also to, for whatever reason, if you're not able to help, then just like you said, it
Yeah,
it is an act of empathy to turn someone down, because
yeah,
what you don't want is to, and unfortunately, I've done this in the past where I take them, I bend to them, and then I end up resenting them. So,
yeah, yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
and I'm trying to, and I end up resenting them, and it shows in your practice, the resentment. Um, so yeah, it, is that along the lines of what you're trying to say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that people just, as business owners, it's okay not to take every deal. Like there are some deals that we shouldn't be involved with. Um, if we're going to resent the client, if it's not worth the time, but then just, giving a referral, and just being real with people, like people appreciate that, and if they don't, then, there's things we can't control. I believe that the philosophy of sales is more important than the psychology of sales. And the philosophy teaches us that we don't focus on things that are outside of our control. So we let people down easy. We're very empathetic. We do what we can, and then we move on. And if they like it, sweet. If not, we can't really dwell on that. So it's very important for us to. But that's why I say focus on the philosophy of sales over the psychology of sales. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. Like I know the psychology of sales. I love it. I study it all the time. But the psychology of sales helps acquire deals. The philosophy of sales lets us stay in business longer, because if we try the psychology and all these hacks, and we try to have 100% closing ratio, we start getting bad clients, we start getting cheap clients, and all these terms are relative, right? Like, I'm not saying they're bad or good, but I'm saying, like, if we're in a profession where clients aren't paying us enough, clients are abusing the privileges that we're giving them. That's what happens when you try to maximize the psychology of sales. When you maximize the philosophy of sales, we get clients that we have a two-way relationship with. We love them, they love us. They can afford us and work with us, right? And we have an open line of communication. When you focus on the psychology and you get, you know, too much and you get bogus deals, that can really drain us. And so I always say, just focus on the psychology or the philosophy. That's longevity in business. Having a good philosophy of business, a good philosophy of sales, keeps us in business longer.
Yes. All right, awesome. All right, so time is going. So do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share? Any any advice that you'd like to impart on our viewers?
Yeah, just remember empathy. Like, it's a buzzword now. There's a lot of cool places you can learn about it. Um, but the more that we practice empathy with ourselves, with the people that we are around, um, and that includes listening. And one of my favorite quotes for sales is, listen with the intent to understand, not the intent to respond. And when you understand that it's not about you, we when we understand that people aren't a means to an end, they're an end, right? That's when our business changes. And that doesn't mean that we bend and cater to every whim, and as the Bible says, like, we're not tossed to and fro with every wind. We're very firm, we're very gentle, we're very temperate, but we keep going. And that would be my final word of wisdom, is just seek to find empathy, or seek to lead with empathy in your life in every case, and treat people as an end, not a means to an end, and you'll be successful. End of story, period. Like, money will flow to you if you can be empathetic and treat people the way they are supposed to be treated.
Fabulous, fabulous advice. Thank you so much for that. Whoa. All right, so let me get up your banner. So, you guys, Dalton is all over social media. You can follow him on all those handles there that you see at the bottom of your screen. If you want to learn more about his coaching services, you can go to his website, daltonkjensen.com. You can't miss it. His name is the website, right? And he also has a podcast on Spotify. It is called The Thinking Project. So if you have Spotify, type the name, look it up. The address was too long, so y'all could search for it. So go to Spotify. It's called The Thinking Project, and look for that podcast. So definitely check him out and follow him and support him. And I want to make sure we get this as well. You have a book called Sales Genius. Tell us about your book. Let me share. I'm just going to pull up the picture of the book. I'm going to share my screen right here. So as I do that, there it is.
Oh,
Oh, that
yep.
is really big. Can we
Oh,
shrink
yeah.
that? There we
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell
Yeah.
us about your book.
Sales Genius. The names in the names in the title. I mean, so I wrote the book as as a reference guide for people to become sales geniuses, because marketing can only take you so far. When we're a small business, we can't afford, a lot of us can't afford the $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month marketing. So we got to figure out how to do it ourselves, and that's why I wrote the book, so that you could hone in on your skills and not have to worry about where your next sale is going to come from because of marketing, that you can go out and get it yourself. So yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. It came from years of experiences, tens of millions of dollars generated in revenue, hundreds of thousands earned in commissions. um, all of it boiled down into one really affordable book. So it's great.
And where can people buy the book?
Yeah, so it's on Gumroad, but if you go to my website, daltonkjensen.com, there's a join the mastermind, and then right on that landing page is buy the book. So yep, you can go right there and get it. It's a PDF, so it'll go right to your email as a PDF, and you can start reading.
Oh, it's a downloadable book. Do you have
Yep.
it on paperback?
Not yet. Working on that with my graphic designer right now. Amazon has some picky dimensions, so we're working on it.
All right, awesome.
Thank you.
All right, and you heard it there. So definitely go get his book and go check him out on all his social media.
Thank you.
All right, so Dalton, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here.
Yes, absolutely. This was really fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'm going to place you backstage now. And let me put up my banner. Where's my banner? There you are. Okay, and you guys, it's just you and I. And that concludes our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we are wherever you are watching this episode right now, whether it is Facebook, Twitter, what's the other one? YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching this episode, please follow us. So whatever the button is, press it. Press that button. Press it right now. So definitely follow us on social media and check out our social media for more videos and clips. And once again, don't forget to follow us wherever you are. And while you're at it, leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment below. Sorry, I'm getting my words jumbled today. Wherever you are watching this right now, let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. And as a reminder, this web series is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about our company, check us out online. Our website is scrolling below. You can also sign up for our email list and texting list if you want to stay in touch with us, you want to know more about what's going on. Definitely sign up for our email list and texting list. The links to those are scrolling below as well. And before we officially close, I'm going to share this one last message.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Note: we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
And that is it for the episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you again. And now, signing off.